Students, we are here back with the new topic that is given on page number uh, 20 after 29. Now this is page number 30. So now on this page you can see there is a heading given division of sectors as organized and unorganized. Okay, so these two type of sectors we are going to see here because the sectors are actually being divided into organized and unorganized. But what do you mean by these two type of sectors here, that is called as organized and unorganized? So let's see on page number 30. We will see here. I'll read it for you. To understand these two sectors, we will see this example. We are going to show here, according to your page number 30 on in NCERT book. In organized sector, we are going to take the example of Kanta. She is working in an organized sector, and Kamal is another person who is working in unorganized sector. So let us understand by their work how this organized and unorganized sector are having differences between them. So first of all, I am going to read for Kanta. Kanta works in an office. She attends her office from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. You will see here, Kanta is working in an organized sector where the working hours are limited and fixed. Fixed working hours are there. She used to go to her office at 9:30 in the morning, and she used to come back from her office at 5:30 p.m. That is, till 5:30 she used to work in her office. Okay, fixed working hours. She gets her salary regularly at the end of every month. She is also getting salary after every finishing of 1 month. Right? Remember, in organized sector, the salary is given monthly. On the third feature of this organized sector, we'll move on. In addition to the salary, she also gets a provident fund as per the rules and laid down by the government. So, according to the government laws or rules and regulations, the organized sector worker also gets a provident fund. Okay, this provident fund is a type of employees savings scheme. Okay, in which afterwards this employee can withdraw that amount of money which is saved in the provident fund account. Okay, with interest they will get in that. So this also is a type of provision in the organized sector. Then we move on to the another feature of this organized sector. It is written here, she also gets some medical facilities, right? She also get medical leaves or allowances, other allowances she also getting. She's also getting in the medical facilities. What is given to them in the organized sector, whenever they are getting sick or they are ill, they get paid leaves, right? So this is a type of feature of organized sector worker. Apart from this, when she joined work, she was given an appointment letter stating all the terms and conditions of work. So when she, that means Kanta joined her work, at that time she got an appointment letter also where all the terms and conditions of her work were also being described. So this all happens in an organized sector. So Kanta is a worker in organized sector. So we have seen here that how the different working conditions are there in organized sector, which we can say are very good. Okay, these are the good working conditions for any particular employee. Now let's move on to the case of Kamal. Kamal is working in an unorganized sector, and let's see what are the different features of unorganized sector. I'll read it from here. Kamal is Kanta's neighbor. He is a daily wage laborer in a nearby grocery shop. This Kamal is working in a grocery shop. Okay, and this Kamal is living nearby in the neighborhood of Kanta, and in the grocery shop he goes to the shop at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay, to open up the shop. in the morning and works till 8 o'clock in the evening. That means he used to work from day till night. Okay, in the morning he is going. This means in unorganized sector there are no fixed hours of working. Okay, and after that he gets no other allowances apart from his wages. He is not getting any type of allowances or medical leaves or any other type of benefits, only except wages. He is getting wages. Why we are calling it as wages? Because this Kamal is not getting a monthly salary, but whenever he is going to join the work on that day only, he will be paid for that work. Okay, so that is a type of unorganized sector feature. Apart from this, he has therefore no leave or paid holidays, nor was he given any formal letter saying that he has been employed in the shop. So there is no appointment letter given to him, and plus he is not having any paid leaves. Okay, whenever he is taking a leave, he will not be getting money for that particular day. So these are all the different features of unorganized sector. So here you can see that unorganized sector is not very much a type of developed sector, or not giving very good facilities to a particular employee. So these are the different features of organized and unorganized sector. Now let us see here that in an organized sector, I am going to read from the next paragraph given on page number 30. It is written that Kanta works in organized sector. Organized sector covers those enterprises or workplaces where the terms of employment are regular and therefore people have assured work. So in organized sector, the people who are working are having surety of their jobs. Okay, and apart from this, they also have to follow its rules and regulations which are given in the various laws, such as Factories Act. Okay, according to this Factories Act, the working conditions for any employee should be better, okay, for any organized sector worker. So these all the type of conditions are being taken care of for any employee working in an organized sector. Apart from this, Minimum Wages Act, Payment Gratuity Act, Shops and Establishments Act. You can see here these all the different institutions which are coming in the organized sector are registered. Okay, they are registered with the government. And apart from this, organized sector has some formal processes and procedures. Some of these people may not be employed by anyone but may work on their own, but they too have to register themselves with the government and follow the rules and regulations. So why we call organized sector as an organized sector? Because in organized sector, most of the means all these type of institutions which are coming or included in the organized sector, all these institutions have to fulfill some formal procedures, right? They have to get registered and they have to follow all the government rules and regulations. Okay, so apart from this, workers in organized sector enjoy security of employment, and they are having fixed number of working hours, and many of the benefits are also given to these employees in organized sector. But in the unorganized sector, all these type of benefits are not. You can see the case of Kamal. No such type of benefits were given in the unorganized sector to Kamal. Apart from this, let's move on to another page number 31, and I'll read it from there. In this page, it is written about unorganized sector. In unorganized sector, these are the type of entities where small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of government. These are the small and scattered units which comes in the unorganized sector. Okay, they are not registered with the government. They are very small, small type of shops and scattered around. Okay, where the people are working. So therefore, they are not having any rules and regulations that they follow of the government laws and rules laws. Okay, and apart from this, there are rules and regulations, but these are not followed. See, what happens is in unorganized sector, there are rules and regulations, but they do not follow. because these are very small units scattered around. Okay, and apart from this, there is no provision of overtime, leave, holidays, leave due to sickness. ये सारी कोई फैसिलिटी यहाँ पे कमल को, जो हमने देखा केस, अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में नहीं मिल सकती. So these are the two different features of organized and unorganized sector. Now the question is how to protect the workers in an unorganized sector. Unorganized sector में workers को हम कैसे करके protect कर सकते हैं, right? So let's see. The organized sector offered jobs that are the most sought after, but the employment opportunities in the organized sector have been expanding very slowly. Okay, you can see here that organized sector jobs are very good. Everybody wants to work in an organized sector, but the problem is this, that the employment opportunities in the organized sector are very limited. Very less number of job opportunities are available in the organized sector, and this is why the unorganized sector is continuously spreading up, or it is increasing. Okay, they adopt such strategies to evade taxes. In an unorganized sector, the owners of small units, they want to evade from taxes, and apart from this, they also used to give very low paid salaries to their workers. Okay, and they adopt such a as a result, a large number of workers are forced to enter in unorganized sector jobs, and if you see, when jobs are not available in the organized sector, automatically the workers are forced to work in an unorganized sector, and where they have to face all these type of problems. Okay, there are no benefits for the employees in the unorganized sector, so they are often exploited and not paid fair wage. Since 1990s, it is common to see a large number of workers losing their jobs in the organized sector. These workers are forced to take up jobs in the unorganized sector with low earnings. 1990s तक क्या हुआ था, large number of workers जो है organized sector में they lost their jobs, and they were forced to take up the jobs in the unorganized sector. Hence, besides the need for more work, there is also a need for protection and support of the workers in the unorganized sector. The reason is this, that when so many workers are employed in the unorganized sector, there is a need that more new rules and regulations should be taken up, or efforts should be made by the government to protect the workers in an unorganized sector. Apart from this, who are these vulnerable people? If you want to find out that what type of people are working in the unorganized sector, हम कैसे करके पता लगाएं? तो unorganized and organized sector के जो unorganized sector के workers हैं, in the unorganized sector workers, we find the workers in the rural areas also, and in the urban areas also. So let's find out in the rural areas which type of workers are found in unorganized sector. So you can see here in the rural areas, these people who are working in the unorganized sector are landless laborers. Those people who are not having their own land in the rural areas, because the main occupation in the rural areas is agriculture. So if the person is not having his own land, they have to work as landless laborers in somebody's other agricultural land. And apart from this, it is written there that what are the other examples of unorganized sector workers in the rural areas? These are the sharecroppers. Sharecroppers are those people who are sharing the land of other people. They are working on the land, they are growing food crops on the land, but what happens is the total value of the produce is not taken up by the sharecropper. Okay, it is being divided into the owner of the land and the person who is cultivating the field. So in this manner sharecroppers are working. So they are not getting a very good amount of incentives. Marginal farmers, small farmers, then weavers, blacksmiths, carpenters, goldsmiths, they all are coming into the unorganized sector. And nearly 80% of the rural households in India are in a small and marginal farmer category. You can see here that rural areas, if you see that about 80% of the farmers are mainly occupied, or maybe they are engaged in unorganized sector jobs. Now moving on to the urban areas. In the urban areas, you will see who are the people working in the unorganized sector. So according to the urban areas, the examples are like that of the casual workers in construction sites. Okay, most of the workers who are working on wages, whichever day they are working, they used to get the money of that day. So these are all the urban areas, unorganized sector people. And apart from this, the workers who are working in small scale industries and trade, transportation, etc. These all the workers are actually working under unorganized sector. Okay, where you all have seen before only we have done no more rules and regulations of the government are followed. Okay. Apart from this, the casual workers in both rural and urban areas need to be protected. इसमें भी workers को protect करने की जरूरत है. Government को efforts इसमें बनाने चाहिए. We also find that the majority of workers from scheduled caste, tribes and backward communities find themselves in the unorganized sector. Besides getting the irregular and low paid work, these workers are facing social discrimination. There are also some of the workers who are scheduled caste or backward caste, okay, low caste people. They are already working in unorganized sector, but the problem is this: how can these workers be protected? Because of their low paid jobs, they are also being facing the problem of social discrimination. In the society, the people do not like them, isn't it? So these are all the different problems and faced by the unorganized sector workers. So there is a need to protect these workers. Okay, government is trying or making efforts to make more and more rules and regulations to find out that how the workers in the unorganized sector are following the rules and regulations, or how this unorganized sector should be made better by the government efforts. So these are some of the questions. But simply speaking, unorganized sector jobs are continuously increasing day by day, right? Because very less or limited jobs are available in the organized sector. Okay, so this is the total explanation of these two, organized and unorganized sector. So as we have seen that economic activities were divided into two different sectors, organized and unorganized sectors. Similarly, economic activities can also be grouped up into two different sectors in terms of ownership. Okay, so in terms of ownership means we are going to divide the economic activities into public sector and private sector. Okay, so on the basis of ownership. Why we call it as on the basis of ownership? Because if I'm going to read this paragraph, you will come to know another way of classifying economic activities into sectors could be on the basis of who owns assets and is responsible for the delivery of services. So this is the another way of classifying economic activities, okay, which is done on the basis of ownership of assets. Okay, ownership of assets. Here assets means the property owned by a person, that is individual or any company. Okay, so on the basis of ownership of assets, the economic activities are divided into public and private sectors. With this, these sectors are also responsible for the delivery of services. Clear? So how the particular type of sector is responsible for the delivery of services. So we are going to take the example of number one. Say for example, we are going to take here the private sector first. We'll write here private and public sector. So first of all, we'll study about the private sector. In this it is written, and public sector also. In this paragraph it is written, in the public sector the government owns most of the assets and provide all the services. So in the public sector the government is the owner of the assets and provide all the different type of services. On the other hand, the private sector is that sector where the ownership of assets and delivery of services is in the hands of the private individual, okay, or companies. Private companies or private individuals are going to hold the assets and deliver the services. So for example, if we take the example of public sector, then examples are like that of railways, okay, that comes in the ownership of assets of the public sector. Government is the owner. With this, there are post offices also. These are all the examples of public sector. Services are also delivered by the government, okay, from these different departments of public sector. Apart from this, in the private sector, private individuals are the owners or companies, okay, private companies like that of you can say this is one of the company like very famous one, Tata Iron and Steel Company, TISCO it is known as, and Reliance Group of Industries, everyone is knowing about that, RIL, okay. These are all the examples of private sector companies. Now if we talk about the activities of private sector, then the main motive of private sector is to earn more and more profit, right? And to get such services, we have to pay money to these individuals and companies. If we want to get the services of the private sector, we have to pay them for providing us those type of services. We have to pay them, okay. The purpose of the private sector is mainly profit earning. So therefore the products which we get from the private sector or services that we get from the private sector companies are much of higher price, or maybe you can say they are expensive. On the other hand, in the public sector, if you will see, in the public sector, the purpose of the public sector is not just to earn profits. The main purpose of the public sector is not to earn profit, because government is the ownership. Government is having the ownership of the different enterprises here in the public sector, and their main motive is just to provide better welfare facilities to the public. This is the main aim of the government, right? And the government raises money through taxes and other ways to meet expenses on the services rendered by it. So whatever type of services the public sector where the ownership is of the government is providing services, the main motive of the of these services is to get that revenue, okay, by the sale of their services to the public, ताकि government के पास एक तरीके का source of revenue है ये, because whenever the government is going to run its administrative department, तो उसको अपनी जो policies को implement करना होता है, it needs funds, government need funds to run those administrative systems, ठीक है? तो ये जो fund raise करती है government, वो taxes से fund raise करती है, right? And with that, public sector enterprises also. And what are these activities? Why do governments spend on such type of activities? So what type of activities if we will talk of that government is going to provide to the public, and another question is that why the government is spending on such type of activities. So there is a question asked about this. तो उसी का आंसर हम देखिए इसी पेज पर हम देखेंगे. This is on page number 33, right side, last paragraph. These are several things needed by the society. Actually, society needs very different important necessary things, okay, and which the private sector will not be able to provide. There are many things in the society which the people need, but the private sector is unable to provide all those type of services, okay. So therefore the government has to take up this job to provide those type of services to the public, right? Why the private sector is unable to provide those type of services? Because to provide these type of services, huge funds are required, which the private sector cannot afford. And this is why government has to take up this job to provide these type of services. So let's study about these type of some activities of the government. Some of the need is spending large sums of money which is beyond the capacity of the private sector and collecting money from thousands of people. So if we say some very important type of needs of the people are like construction of roads. Okay, this construction of roads needs a very heavy investment, right, which the government can do in a better way. There are also some type of flyovers which the government is providing. They construct it for the welfare of the public so that no more traffic jams should be there, right, for the welfare of the public. And with this railways and electricity generation, okay, these are all important type of services that every person needs. And if the private sector is going to provide, say for example, electricity, then the cost that the different individuals have to pay for using this electricity will be very high. काफी महंगा आपको उसका बिल पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा. So if the price of this if the electricity will be of available to the people at high prices, तो इससे क्या हो जाएगा कि that small scale industries जो हमारी वो shut down हो जाएंगी, because these small scale industries cannot afford high cost of electricity, right? So therefore government has to take up this job, that to provide this important services like that of electricity at a very fair prices, that the small scale industries should not be shut down, and the general public should also be feeling comfortable, and this is why the government is providing this service of electricity. So this is one of the examples why the government is coming in between to provide these type of services or perform these type of activities for the public in the society. And there are some activities which the government has to support. There are some of the type of activities which the government have to support. Okay, so what these type of activities are? Like, the private sector may not continue with their production or business unless government encourages it. For example, selling electricity at this I have told you already. Many units, especially small scale units, might have to be shut down. This I have told it. Already I have told you. Similarly, the government in India buy wheat and rice from the farmers. Now, which I was telling you, what are the necessary supporting services that the government is providing to the producers also and the consumers also. Okay, for producers if we talk of, then we will see here that the farmers, whatever type of food grains mainly they are producing, these type of food grains are sold to the government stores, okay, like that of Food Corporation of India, okay. Why the government is purchasing all these type of food grains from the farmers? Because from the farmers they purchase at a higher support price, okay. This is what is called as minimum support price, so that the farmers should get good incentives. उनको उनकी प्रोड्यूस के लिए कम पैसे ना मिले, उनको अच्छे से इंसेंटिव मिल सके, तो इसीलिए हाई प्राइसेस पर परचेज कर लेती है गवर्नमेंट. ऑन द अदर हैंड, फॉर द कंज्यूमर्स, दोज हु आर अनेबल टू परचेज नेसेसरी फूड आइटम्स, उनको गवर्नमेंट इसी फूड ग्रेन से जो फार्मर से परचेज करे हैं उसको अवेलेबल कराती है टू द पीपल हु आर अनेबल टू पे प्राइस फॉर नेसेसरी फूड आइटम्स, ओके, एट सब्सिडाइज्ड रेट्स. तो सब्सिडाइज्ड रेट्स में आपकी रैशन शॉप्स आती हैं, तो रैशन शॉप्स में यही फूड ग्रेन्स अदर पीपल जो अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते उनको प्रोवाइड करती है गवर्नमेंट. सो दिस इज अ वेरी नेसेसरी एंड सपोर्टिंग सर्विस दैट द गवर्नमेंट इज गिविंग टू द पब्लिक, right, and it is very much important also. So in this way we can say that producers as well as consumers, the government is supporting both of them. Apart from this, there are large number of activities which are primary responsibility of the government. कुछ ऐसी primary activities हैं जो सबसे ज़्यादा primarily important होती हैं गवर्नमेंट के लिए, ठीक है. तो ये कौन सी वाली है, देखिए इसमें से जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट है वो आप समझ सकते हैं, दैट इज एजुकेशन, ओके. we know that our country is having a large group of illiterate people. तो सबको अगर एजुकेशन देनी है तो सबसे पहले रिमेंबर दैट इवन द सेकेंडरी लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन और प्राइमरी लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन, एलिमेंट्री लेवल ऑफ एजुकेशन जो है गवर्नमेंट हैज मेड इट कंपल्सरी फॉर एवरीवन इन द कंट्री, बिकॉज इट वांट्स दैट द पीपल शुड बी लिटरेट, और लिटरेट होने से वो क्या होगा, उनकी इनकम भी अच्छी हो पाएगी, जिससे कि हमारी नेशनल इनकम ही बढ़नी है, वेल्थ ऑफ द नेशन, नेशनल इनकम ही बढ़ेगी. सो इसीलिए गवर्नमेंट ट्राइज हार्ड, मेक एफर्ट्स टू प्रोवाइड फ्री एजुकेशन टू द पीपल इन द रूरल एरिया. सबसे ज्यादा इससे अफेक्टेड होते हैं जो इलिटरेट होते हैं वो आपके रूरल एरियाज में. तो गवर्नमेंट इज प्रोवाइडिंग फ्री एजुकेशन टू देम, just to make them educated, or just to so that those people should not face the problems of unemployment situations, right? So इसीलिए just to support the public. Similarly, we know that nearly half of the India's children are malnutrition, and a quarter of them are critically ill. There are many small children who are suffering from malnutrition, and they are getting ill very soon. So government is also taking up this job that if you take an example of infant mortality, small children, those small infant हम बोलेंगे, those who have not even reached up to the age of 1 year, 1 year से पहले ही they used to die. Okay, and this is a type of problem that we can see in our own states of India. जैसे कि आपका ओडिशा हो गया, मध्य प्रदेश हो गया. ओडिशा में 45 small infants are dying before reaching to the up to the age of 1 year. इसको हम बोलते हैं infant mortality rate. ठीक है, per thousand में से 45 small infants are dying. On the other hand, मध्य प्रदेश में भी ये 47 है. ठीक है, ये भी रेशियो काफी बड़ा है. अगर हम वर्ल्ड की पुअरेस्ट रीजन्स की अगर बात करें, वहां पर भी ये इन्फेंट मोर्टेलिटी आपको नहीं देखने को मिलेगा. सो दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी यू कैन से a particular type of point where the government have to think of it strictly. बहुत ही एक हमारी ये sensitive situation है that why India is having this problem of infant mortality rate, because our medical facilities are not good. Okay, so इसके ऊपर गवर्नमेंट को काफी काम करना होता है. that medical facilities should be provided in every area, maybe it be rural areas or urban areas. And government pays attention on human development as well. Government is also just looking after the development of human beings that are living in the country. How the government is looking after? By providing them a safe drinking water facility, right? This is the most important thing. And with this, housing facilities to the poor who are unable to get houses. Okay, they are living without house. तो ये भी गवर्नमेंट ऐसी फैसिलिटीज अवेलेबल कराती है. फूड, न्यूट्रिशन, दिस ऑल इज लुक्ड आफ्टर बाय द गवर्नमेंट फॉर ऑल दोज पीपल हु आर अनएबल टू get all these type of important facilities or services. So here we can see that how the public sector is playing such a good role, right? Government is playing to perform these type of activities because they are very important for the welfare of the public. Okay, so in this way we end up the chapter here. This was the last topic of the chapter, which was public and private sector. We divide the economic activities into these two sectors on the basis of ownership of assets and delivery of services, right? So in this way the chapter is finished here. So after the in a while we are going to discuss about the question answers also. So let's move on to those question answers of NCERT also, and some extra questions we'll also do.